Mark Carney just stood on a stage in Sydney, Australia, and said 5 words that will reshape global economics. Bigger than the United States. He wasn't guessing, he was doing the math. Europe, Australia, Canada, Japan, South Korea. Combined GDP larger than America's. 3 times the trade of China, a bloc of 1.5 billion people. And he's building the bridge to connect them. CPTPP on one side, the European Union on the other, Canada in the middle. Now, here's the part that makes this different from every other speech a politician has ever given about alliances. There's a number buried in this plan that nobody is talking about, and it changes everything. I'll get to it in a moment. If you want to understand these global shifts before they hit the news cycle, subscribe and hit the bell. Let's get into it. To understand what Carney just did in Sydney, you need to understand what the world looked like 6 months ago. January 2026, Davos, World Economic Forum. Every major leader in one room. Carney walks up to the stage and says the US-led order is over. Doesn't call it a transition, calls it a rupture. Then 6 words. If we are not at the table, we are on the menu. Standing ovation. That almost never happens at Davos. Hours later, same stage, same room. Trump takes the microphone. Canada lives because of the United States. Remember that, Mark. Think about that for a second. A sitting president on a global stage telling a sovereign nation it only exists because of American generosity. Now, here's what most people missed. 2 days after that moment, Australian Prime Minister Albanese went on national television and publicly sided with Carney, invited him to address Australia's parliament. The first Canadian PM to do so in nearly 20 years. The President of the United States threatened Canada's existence on camera. Within 48 hours, one of America's closest allies chose the other side. Not quietly, on camera, on national TV. And for everyday Canadians, the threat was real. Tariffs already hitting steel, aluminum, cars, jobs in Hamilton, Windsor, Sault Ste. Marie, all under pressure. Not because we did anything wrong, but because the rules changed overnight. If Canada had sat still, waited for Washington to come around, those tariffs would have become permanent. Those jobs would have disappeared. Your grocery bill would have kept climbing. But Carney didn't sit still. And what he just did in Sydney, the alliance he just announced, that's the part that makes the Davos speech look like a warm-up act. Here's the timeline. Pay attention, because every piece connects. After Davos, Carney didn't fly home and hold a press conference. He picked up the phone. India first, 4 days, Mumbai, New Delhi. Remember, 16 months before that, Canada and India had expelled each other's diplomats. Relations completely frozen. Accusations of foreign agents operating on Canadian soil. It was over. Done. Carney walked in and reopened everything. Sat down with Modi. 5 deals. $5.5 billion. The centerpiece. $2.6 billion in uranium, 22 million pounds of nuclear fuel, Saskatchewan to India, locked from 2027 through 2035. Modi praised Carney by name, called him a friend, frozen to $5.5 billion in 16 months. That's not diplomacy. That's a structural rebuild. Then Australia. But here's where the timeline matters. And this is the number I promised you. Before Carney even landed in Sydney, he had already signed $9.5 billion in deals across 2 countries, India plus the radar, and defense agreements with Australia. $9.5 billion in less than 10 days, without a single dollar flowing through Washington. Now he stands at the Lowy Institute and does the math out loud. Europe, Australia, Canada, Japan, South Korea, combined GDP larger than the United States. 3 times the trade of China. And then the plan, connect the CPTPP, the massive Pacific Rim trade bloc, with the European Union. Canada already has trade agreements with both. Canada becomes the bridge. 1.5 billion people in one connected trading network. And he didn't just give a speech. Before taking the stage, Carney sat down with Simon Trott, CEO of Rio Tinto, one of the largest mining companies on Earth. Met with Shamara Wickramanayake, CEO of Macquarie Group. Met with the head of Australia's Future Fund. These aren't photo ops. These are the people who move billions. Then the Q&A. A reporter asks Carney about his game plan for managing Trump. Carney laughed, said what matters is respect but not obsequiousness, called Trump a very successful politician, then added, and this is key, that in private, Trump is more direct, more interested in hearing different viewpoints. That creates, Carney said, an ability to work through things. You see what he did there? No insult, no weakness. A leader who respects the position but doesn't bend to it. Now step back and look at what just happened in 10 days. India, locked in. 5.5 billion. Uranium through 2035. Free trade agreement negotiations targeting this December at the G20 in Miami. Australia, defense deal signed. Critical minerals agreement from last October, already building shared supply chains in lithium, cobalt, rare earths. The minerals that go into every battery, every fighter jet, every semiconductor. Tomorrow, Carney addresses Australia's parliament, then Japan. 3 continents, 10 days, and every dollar of it used to flow through Washington. Here's why this doesn't reverse. The uranium contract runs through 2035. India's reactors don't switch suppliers overnight. That fuel is locked. The CPTPP is a legal framework with 11 member nations. The critical minerals supply chain between Canada and Australia is already under construction. Those are mining operations, processing facilities, shipping routes. You don't undo that with a phone call. The free trade deal with India targets a signing in December. That's a legal framework, not a handshake. And here's the piece: nobody else is connecting. Carney said Canada and Australia are building the largest mineral reserve held by trusted democratic nations. That's not trade. That's infrastructure for the next 50 years. Lithium for batteries, cobalt for electronics, rare earths for defense systems. The countries that control these minerals control the next industrial revolution, and Canada just positioned itself at the center of that network. Carney and Albanese both won their elections the same week last spring. Both center-left, both carried by voters who rejected the politics of isolation, both popular at home, neither facing elections soon. This isn't a handshake between two politicians. This is two aligned democracies building something designed to outlast both of them. Markets that shift don't shift back, supply chains that reroute don't return, trade blocs that form don't dissolve because someone in Washington changes their mind. If you think more Canadians should understand the scale of what just happened, hit that like button. It pushes this to more people who need to see it. Tomorrow, Carney walks into Australia's parliament. Last Canadian PM to do that, nearly 20 years ago. Then Japan, the third stop, the third continent, and the CPTPP EU bridge he's building. If that comes together, it's the largest free trade zone in human history. 1.5 billion people, bigger than anything Washington or Beijing has assembled. Here's my question for you. Which of these 3 deals surprises you the most? India, Australia, or the CPTPP EU bridge? And do you think Japan signs on this trip? Drop your answer in the comments. I'm reading every single one. A man stood on a stage in Sydney and did the math. The middle powers aren't in the middle anymore. They're bigger than the powers that told them to sit down. And the man holding the calculator, he's Canadian. If you want the full story on the India deal, the 5.5 billion, the uranium, how Carney turned frozen relations into the biggest energy agreement between the two countries ever. I broke that down in detail. That video is right here. I'll see you there.